podcast powered by Landscaping Unlimited. As always, you've got your host, Shay Brickhouse, and myself, Zachary Small, and we are recording another episode for you where we are talking about licenses. Shay, we are talking about pesticide licenses, we are talking about irrigation licenses, we are talking about landscape contractor licenses, and there is one more. What's that last one?
It's your general contractor's license.
Man, oh man, why have I heard that term used recently? Oh, that is right. You have added another line to your signature in an email. Brother, let's talk about you being a general contractor here in the beautiful state of North Carolina.
Well, it's a lot of studying, it's a lot of books, and it's been something I wanted to do for about 2 years now. I don't think I ever really would have really pursued it if it wasn't for some other individuals that we work for, licensed contractors that really just pushed me to do it. It's been something that I wanted to do because I wanted to increase what we can do as a company. And there's been a few areas where we may have needed that license to do what we did. Also, there's been some reclassifications in the landscape license and the wording. And so in 2023, they rewrote one of the laws, and they took out one section, which was one of the scapegoats we had been using to do some of the things we've done. Now we're officially licensed to where we don't have to worry about that anymore. We don't have to turn down work because we can't do it. And I'm excited to have the license in landscaping's name so that we can literally do just about anything we want now.
I think something I enjoy about this, and we're going to get into the weeds on all of these licenses, but I do want to take a quick moment because this is our podcast. Whenever we want, we make the rules here. And one of the rules I'm going to break right now is instead of diving into the topic, take a little tangent. And I want to point out, those guys that were pushing you to like, hey, go for it, like get the license, and your ability to kind of grow in this industry. It's awesome from somebody who's watching it happen to see your interest in this. Yeah. In the same way you talked about photography, like I see that with you in this, like you just keep on chasing the thing because you're hungry for it. So it opened the doors for us. It is an investment in the business, but I also think there was just a natural curiosity of yourself to just, if you're going to do the thing, do all of the thing.
Yeah, that's right.
And so that's been pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I think also, I spoke at the Turfgrass Council North Carolina regional meeting, and one of the things I talked about there was being an advocate for the industry. And for me, that's the green industry. I want to advocate for that. But to see other people in the building contractor, industry, general contracting industry, to advocate to say, hey, like maybe you should pursue this because there's a few times you do kind of cross that line, and to advocate to me and say, hey, like just go ahead and do it. You won't have to worry about it. That's another industry out there in the trades that they're advocating for their industry. And so the reason we're going to talk about these licensing today and dive into each one of them specifically and talk about each one of them, their details, the requirements, what the law states, and all of that entails, getting that license, is because we want to advocate for the licensing and the purpose that they are there, the reasoning behind them, as well as what it does for you as a business and how it will increase your interactions with your customers.
And so when you look at it like that, with our customers, that's a cool part of this too, is like they've been asking for projects that we couldn't do. And so now it's like, let's do it. And so it's going to open up the projects. Our guys are going to get to see more because we can operate under your license. And so now it's just expanding what we can all go out and do and just what the business at large. I mean, we say the possibilities are unlimited, everything outdoors. Well, now we can work with the roof over our head too. Yeah, so right. That's pretty cool. We can do everything outdoors, everything indoors. Or I guess I'm assuming everything, and we'll get into what we can't do or what the limitations still are, if there are any. But first, let's build up to that. So we have this set where the licenses, they build upon themselves as you kind of work your way up the chain as to the size of the job you can do, the amount of money that you can spend on that property, and everything that goes with it. And so right out the gate, we're talking pesticide license. Yep. That's what's up. Check that box. Let's go, Zach. That's the only license I'll have, just for you guys to know, for the rest of this conversation. This is where mine starts and ends. But the pesticide license, that's the one right out the door. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so the pesticide license here in North Carolina, each state has their own pesticide licensing, or they may not even have one in their state. They should, because it's really for protecting the environment, making sure that everyone's safe, both on the human side and as well as protecting the environment, protecting your blue line streams from overspray and drift and just runoff, and keeping everything safe the way it should be. But in North Carolina, the license that we use typically in the green industry is your commercial ground applicator license. It's licensed from the state. It's a state license, so it's important. It's enforced by the state. It's got its own sets of rules and regulations. But for us, it's the code number 026, and that's a commercial ground applicator. And the licensing for that says that any pesticide license is required for commercial applicators applying any type of pesticide for compensation. What that means is for compensation is exactly what it says. If you're out there spraying a pesticide, whether it's Roundup from Home Depot, Lowe's, your Ace Hardware, your True Value, any hardware store that you can buy any kind of pesticide, if you're out there doing lawn care and you're spraying it, you have to be a licensed pesticide applicator.
Well, if somebody's paying you.
Well, you can't do it for free. If you're out there providing a service, so if short of you doing it on your property.
That's what I was thinking. Somebody could do it on their property.
Yeah,
that's where it ends.
That's right. It's for compensation. So and I've got some exemptions in here we can kind of go through. But if you're getting paid for it, and that could be a gift card, that could be steak dinner,
a meal.
I mean, it's compensation. I think that's why it's worded the way it is. It's for compensation. You're getting some reimbursement from that. And a lot of times in our industry, I've heard people say, "Well, I don't charge for that." It's like, well, what do you charge for? Well, I charge for mowing their lawn. Well, did you spray while you were there? They said, well, yeah, but I didn't charge for the spraying.
There's no line item for spray.
Yeah, it's no, well, you did it as part of the service, so you were compensated. And so that's where that little myth there that, we can get around it. Well, you can't. Let an inspector see a glyphosate jug on your sprayer, on your trailer or in your truck, and see you with a backpack sprayer out there, applying that. Well, guess what? You're getting ready to get a hefty pull ticket and a big slap on the wrist. But to go back into this and dive deep into it, in our industry, I've got highlighted here in the paper that I printed off of the website. It says the license required for anyone applying pesticides for compensation on someone else's property, per the NC Pesticide Law of 1971. And if you actually read that law, I clicked on it a little while ago and was trying to go through it all. It is tons of information. So I would encourage anyone to look that law up and read it. It is actually very informative. There's a bunch of stuff in there that goes into how pesticides are registered, how they're issued licensing and stamps, and how it's just a ton of information that honestly will baffle you. But some examples included in this are landscapers and lawn care companies, mosquito companies, and then it's got contractors spraying for farms, golf courses, greenhouses, stuff like that, et cetera. But landscapers and lawn care companies, that's us. Mosquito companies, we've had a conversation about this earlier this week, or someone asked about mosquito spray, and I wasn't quite sure if we were actually able to do that or if that was considered like
Shout out to Lessa for asking the question.
Yeah. But yeah, no, our license under code 026 actually allows us to spray, for mosquitoes.
Yep.
So like mosquito fogging, as long as it's not in structural applications, so not in your actual home or like around your structure, or under your structure, but in your lawn, we can spray for that. And so you've got to be licensed to do that. You've got to have, you have to take a test first of all to get this license. Zach, you took that test.
It was a great test, and honestly, if you're interested in what you do, and this goes back to what we were talking about with you going for the general contractor's license, I was next to you actually when I was reading it. It was the night before, but I was really diving into it and taking the practice test. But it's like fascinating how we come up with all this stuff, what the rules are. And I thought it was interesting because I'm very anti-government. I don't want to be told what to do by anybody. And I was thinking about it like this. There are some great electricians who aren't licensed electricians. And people will think about them when they're like, well, if you can do the job, you should be able to do the job without any oversight or having any license. And I understand the argument. It's America, freedom 100%. But there are far more houses burning down because of the Joe Schmo, the local amateur electrician, than the one who's licensed, the one who's been through the training, the one who's had to put in the reps to prove, I know what it is that I'm doing. And I would say going through that course, there is so much information given. The people there are super cool. They love what they do, you can tell. So when you have a professor who loves what they can do, they're passionate about the subject they're teaching, it's much easier to learn that subject, and it's much easier to kind of fall in love with the information and yourself. And so I was just we drive by yards, we were actually doing it today, and I didn't say anything, but I was like, man, just all the things I could spray, all these broad leaves are wide open, all these little blades of grass, and I'm like, we could take care of that. And you just start thinking about things differently. And so when it comes to protecting the environment, when it comes to ensuring that you're not spraying things on kids' toys or around pets that you know shouldn't be sprayed there. That comes from education and awareness. And I'm glad there's sort of a committee that's talking about these things. Yeah. And so, like, I don't like being told what to do. I don't like anybody saying you have to have this license. But at the same time, I do want people to be educated in something. And I want to ensure if I'm hiring an electrician, that dude is like well versed on all parts of what it is he's doing inside my home. Not like, yeah, he's wired a few things here and there, and my aunt said he's cool.
Yep.
You know, there's got to be more than that. And so when it comes to like the oversight, and this goes for all these licenses, it's necessary because I've been in it with taking that test, and I was like, I'm really glad I did, because I learned a lot through osmosis of just being around you and being with the equipment. But sitting in there, there was hours of just sitting in there, and this is all we spoke about.
Yep.
But you can't help but learn a lot about it. And so I recommend anybody, if you're going to be working with somebody or trusting them in your most precious space, which is your property, that you go with somebody that has proven they have put the work in themselves to take care of your stuff.
Yeah, I think to build on that, to clarify, for one, you took the 2-day course and then test. So it was like a day and a half of course where you had professors, you had multiple people rotating through, teaching different topics. And then you took the test, immediately after the course, which if you've ever taken that course, if you listen to this, there's a ton of information in there, and the test covers a ton of information as well. So it's a lot to soak in, right then. It's a lot of information given to you in a very short amount of time. One thing, you talked about electrician and you not want your house burned down. Well, you want licensed pesticide applicators applying your pesticides, because there's rules and regulations as far as to the amount of an active ingredient that can be applied, per acre per year. And that's important, because if you over apply, obviously someone has tested that. Like I said, if you go back into that law, that's NC Pesticide Law of 1971, it'll go into all the rules and regulations of how they actually formulate these things to become legal pesticides, or restricted or non-restricted. Restricted meaning that you have to have a license to buy. But within all that, they have extensive studies that show, well, if you apply this much, then you could actually cause erosion problems, or you could start damaging the turf. And like if it's a specific use or a selective herbicide, then you maybe start applying so much that you actually start damaging the turf that you're not targeting, and then causing erosion problems and runoff, and you have more chemicals that are going out. Right now glyphosate's a hot topic. I think everybody's trying to sue everybody, over glyphosate. And the reality is people just are misinformed, and they don't understand pesticides. And so I think people should educate themselves before they start on that. And I won't go too much in that tangent, because that's about an hour's worth.
That's a different podcast.
Yeah, that's about an hour's worth right there. But in those classes, you cover all that. You cover drift, you cover humidity, you cover the volatility of a chemical. You understand jar mixes, like where you can mix two chemicals together versus one chemical, and you find out if they're suitable to be mixed together in the tank, so you can increase your application rates as far as, with the chemicals you're applying within one application. Mm-hmm. So you're saving less labor, which is better for the customer. You're learning about the safety of the chemicals. Hey, how long should someone be away from this site via pets, via children? You're learning about how long it stays suspended, the importance of agitation, pH levels in your water. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And there's a ton of information in that. And to capitalize on that, this license isn't just a one and done. You get your license, but it's only good for 5 years. And then you have a renewal fee. But within those 5 years, you have credit hours you have. I was
going to say, you have continuing education.
Yeah, you have.
You got to stay up to date with all this.
Yep. So with every year, one of these, we just left a class not long ago. Matter of fact, it was actually at the regional meeting for the Turfgrass Council, where we listened to a speaker from Helena talk about suspension and pH levels, within water mixer, and how that decreases or increases, how long your chemical,
that was fascinating, by the way.
Stays active. Yeah, it was very informative. Had me going on Amazon buying pH test kits for.
So, to put that into layman's terms, the water, the pH level of the water that you're taking varies from county to county, sometimes from house to house. And so, what this individual was talking about was how that impacted the strength or the life of the chemical or the active ingredient that you're using. And so if you fill up at a certain house, you might 15 minutes later not have as much of an active ingredient as you thought, compared to somewhere else where it was lasting a lot longer. And you might think you applied wrong or something was up with the property, when in all reality it was the water. And so normally you're not going to base that. You're going to assume it's a pretty balanced level across the board, but it's not. it does fluctuate, and that fluctuation changes the way that the chemicals react with one another, and how long they can just go out and do their job. So it's cool stuff, and you don't something you don't think about. But when you go to these classes, now we're like, all right, is our water good? We got to make sure that we're paying attention to that.
And so, if you listen to this and you're not a licensed applicator, I mean, maybe this will spark a little interest in you and say, well, man, I didn't know all that, but I'm out here selling a service, but I don't know that I'm fully providing it. So maybe it'll be like, maybe I should get licensed, one, to be legal, and then two, to get the continuing education so you can expand your knowledge of what it is you're doing in the industry you love, so that you can provide the best service you can to your customer, because that's the end goal here, is to provide the best service you can and protect your homeowner. Yeah, you could go spray, but what's the good of that if you're not giving everything you can give to it, and you're not doing it efficiently and safely for the environment and for your homeowner?
I was thinking about, we were talking about electricians and houses and then burn to the ground. Like, the biggest fear, I think, of every licensed pesticide applicator is to go there, apply it to kill the weeds, you go back the next day and it's just brown.
Yeah, there's no grass.
Everything's gone. Yeah. It's like, so you didn't burn the house down, you burnt the lawn down.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, for example, right now we're running through some poana. I'm sure everyone's hearing about poana. It's a pesky little weed that pops up, and it's a grass. And if you get it in Bermuda grass, particularly right here, Bermuda's trying to green up. When soil temps get around 60, there's few chemicals that you can spray on Bermuda grass that also target poana, because usually if it's targeting poana, it probably will kill your Bermuda. So you're having to hit it right when it's dormant. If you wait too late, it's like, well, now you're just going to wait till the poana dies out from heat. And also, those chemicals are high dollar when you're spraying them on Bermuda lawns. I mean, we just sprayed we sprayed a chemical the other day. It's around $130 an acre, and we had an acre to spray. And I was like, man, this is high dollar. So, but it was either that or you risk spraying something else that's cheaper per acre, but you might end up sodding the whole yard. And that's where being a licensed pesticide applicator, your homeowner, if you have that license number, then they know that they're hiring someone professional. They don't worry about that. They're not worried about you spraying something wrong or killing their lawn, because you've already done the research, you've read the labels. And if you're listening to this, the label is the law. So what's on that label is what you follow. If it says don't do it, you don't do it. That pretty much sums up a lot of the pesticide. I mean, we could probably talk about this for hours and hours and hours about different formulations and mixed ratios and pH levels and going out and checking. And
the type of weed, the type of pest, the type of herbicide, fungicide.
That's right, because it's never ending. I mean, I've been
soil tests.
I've been a licensed pesticide applicator since I think my license is like around 2012, 2013. That was one of the first licenses I got, and to this day, I still learn stuff continuously about pesticides. I mean, new stuff comes out daily. New studies come out. New chemicals come out. Studies come out about chemicals you learned about previously that you realize, well, these didn't really target that very well, but it was sold as this. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it just continues, on and on and on, and you can never learn enough about it. And it just goes to show, as the industry is so vast, so is the pesticide portion of it, and there's always something to learn there. And so go out and get licensed in your pesticide applicator if you're going to spray Roundup or anything for compensation. Follow that law and don't be doing yourself an injustice by not being licensed. It's not worth the risk. And honestly, it's worth having that license number on your truck. I mean, it's a little bit of bragging rights, and then you'll be surprised at how much you're going to learn, the next year, the year after, and every year after that. It's going to increase your business, your profitability, exponentially, way more than what you could ever imagine. So do things the right way and get licensed. Pesticide is a good way to start. And then after that,
it's the gateway license.
Yeah. After that, I was going to cover irrigation license after that, but we're probably going to dive into a landscape license, because I feel like pesticide leads right into your turf care. Yep. And so I want to go over that, because there's a few lines in there that if you don't read them just right, you'll find yourself being illegal because you're not licensed. So second license we're going to cover, North Carolina landscape contractor's license. Once again, every state has their form of it, or they don't. They should. I know Virginia, the state just above us, and South Carolina does. Some of them you can come in from a different state if you have a license in there, come into our state, and if you meet the requirements, then you can the board will issue a license in our state without you having to take the exam. There's lots of stuff in this.
Is that due to the similarities of the environment in which you're working?
Yeah. Well, it's basically like showing similarities
Regions,
in your
like
knowledge.
they overlap.
That's right. As long as you know the knowledge of it, then
Yep.
most of the time they'll let that license, cover a license in this state. They'll just issue you one based off of your experience. Do you have any questions on landscape contractor's license before I?
So this was actually the big dog license that we've been operating on it for so long.
Yep.
And so I thought that this was the all-encompassing, you could do everything. And so I'm more curious as to what you couldn't do and what those limitations were, because that always kind of tripped me out, because I thought, similar to the general contractor, you can go out and you can build homes, you can do all these things. I didn't see many limitations outside of maybe the electrical. Like maybe there's certain things you couldn't wire up. With landscaping, I mean, it's anything outdoors. And so like, that's almost too broad of a conversation. So like, where are landscape contractors limited, or are their hands tied, especially now that they changed that rule? What are the governors that are kind of keeping you throttled a little bit? And what can we do to kind of, well, maybe not work around it, but for somebody listening, how they can get creative? Or is it time for, are there different levels of landscape contractor licenses you can get, similar to how general contractors, there are certain levels you can bring yourself to?
Yeah, no, landscape contractor's license is one license. There's no levels or like limitations or classifications. It's one license. To just sum this up, I'm going to read a little bit of the statute. So I'm just going to read to you guys. I'm a storyteller. I feel like I'm reading to my kids bedtime right now, but I'm going to read you the exact words out of it because I don't want to mess this up. It's important that you hear it exactly the way the statute is. You can go online and look it up, but I'm going to read you a part of this because it's very informative and it touches every little aspect of that. So for one, definition, landscape construction or contracting. It's the act of providing services as a landscape contractor, as defined in this section, for compensation. Landscape contractor, is defined as any person who, for compensation, does any of the following. And this is where it gets really dives into
list.
detail. Yeah. So it's engages in the business requiring the art, experience, ability, knowledge, science, and skill to prepare contracts and bids for the performance of landscape services. So if you're actually able to put together a bid, a quote, a contract, any binding paperwork between you and your customer that is saying, hey, this is what I'm going to do, and you're going to pay me X for it. That's what that means. But services include planting, repairing and managing gardens, lawns, shrubs, vines, trees, or other decorative vegetation, including the finished grading and preparation of plots and areas of land for decorative, utilitarian treatment and arrangement. Now, within that one section there, I want to really hit on the part where it said, fart.
Keep that one.
Including the finished grading and preparation. So it's not talking about like full-on land clearing. It's talking about finish grading.
Yeah.
So that's like the property's already been cleared, the houses are built or whatever, and you're out
basically
there.
a dirt lawn.
Yeah, that's right. You're out there fine-tuning it for the preparation of a seed bed or sod or flower bed or any horticultural area. So this doesn't really cover land clearing, which is one of those things that, dude, and I'll get into this in a minute too. There's a dollar amount there, whereas we worked on the land clearing and we advertised that up to a dollar amount. But it's because of the dollar amount, not because of this.
Yep.
And so there's some in and outs here. If you know the law and you read them, you can weave your way through them. We don't have to do that anymore though. And then subpart B says practices the act of horticulture consultation or planting design for employment purposes. So that would be someone calls you and says, hey, I need to know what to do with my flower beds. I don't know what plants will live here. I don't know which ones won't. So this doesn't even like really constitute a dollar amount. It's you consulting them and giving them advice for compensation. So like that's any amount of compensation. If you're being a consultant, telling them what to do, what to plant, how to take care of it, what to spray on it, what not to, horticultural oils, just anything consultation wise, planting or horticulture related. And that even goes to your grass, hey, what fertilizer to put out, what height to cut your grass, when to aerate, all that kind of stuff. That's consultation of horticultural structures, and that would require you to have a license.
When would that come into the mix? When would somebody ever go after somebody and say, you gave me guidance on my lawn, but you're not licensed.
Yeah, so that one is not really the big ticket item. I
Mm-hmm.
think that would be more so like someone is just doesn't like you in the community, but it's
got a
the
target
law.
on you.
And so, I mean, it is the law, and that's what we're here to do, is to educate and to let everyone know what is out there and why these laws wouldn't be here if this industry didn't matter.
Yep.
And they are here, which means that this industry is alive and
100%.
well, and why we're here advocating for it. That's the main takeaway I want people to take away from this, is that it's not just another trade where you can just go hop in it and boom, next thing you know you're working in it. It's before long you're going to realize, crap, I've been doing this illegal because all these laws were in place, and this industry is alive and well and is up there with the rest of them, and it's not just a small fly-by-night scene. That particular subsection, probably not the major thing.
Yeah.
I feel like you're probably not going to be consulting horticultural stuff if you're not part of a bigger organization. So there'll probably be other areas you'll cross that'll probably catch you in that, breaking the law, and that'll just be a part that they can add to it.
So to shift a little bit the field that we're talking, when you go to nurseries, I'm going to assume that they have their pesticide license for all that they're applying to their plants. Do they also need a landscape contractor license because they're offering such a high degree of service and recommendations and sales?
Nope. There's some exemptions in here, and there's a list of them. So a nursery wouldn't be required to have their landscape contractor's license. There's an exemption for nurseries, and I could find it in here in the exemptions. Let's see here.
While you're looking for that, the reason I'm asking is because there's a lot of recommendations going around as to, like, not just here's a plant I want to sell you, but they talk about how to take care of it. They talk about the best environment to put it into. So like they're now assuming the role of somebody who is selling not just that, but also the care of that. Also the recommendations that go with that. And so I would think that they'd be bound to like having some sort of proof that they know what they're talking about. Because if not, then anybody could just grow anything and just recommend it. And so the nurseries at large would kind of be, they're just people who have to do it at large scale. They're not actually better educated or anything. Unless it's survival of the fittest. And in that case, well, nurseries are doing well because they just happen to sell the best plants. They know how to take care of it because they learned it from somewhere at some point. There's got to be a nursery degree or certification or something, because these people who run this at such a high scale, that's hard to do, to keep all those plants alive.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I could have swore I saw an exemption. I know in the irrigation, they're exempt for irrigation license for their nurseries.
I might have just knocked out the entire nursery community.
Well, I'm sure there's something exempt in here, but the way the law reads right then yeah, you would be correct. They could sell you the plants, but they couldn't consult with you.
Like,
Yeah,
they're never gonna do that though. Like, they want them to live. These people can't, like,
I mean, it says for employment purposes. Well, I guess that might be the exemption there, because that's not their primary employment purpose is consulting. Their primary employment purpose would be, as a nursery, just growing and selling plants. I also think that would be where your difference from a wholesale and resale nursery as well. If you're wholesale, you're selling to landscapers anyways. So they're the ones doing the consulting. I would say that they're exempt from that. It doesn't.
We'll do a podcast recap where we come out,
Yeah.
or maybe like a short form where we address some of the things that have caught our attention.
Yeah, it doesn't specifically say that they're exempt, but based off of some of the verbiage, I would say there's a slight gray loophole area there where they're exempt on that. I wouldn't think they would need to be licensed.
Do you know if there is degrees or certifications?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the North Carolina Nursery Landscape Association has certifications for plant identification and all this kind of stuff.
That's cool.
So I mean, yeah, there's tons of it. I mean, well, part of getting your landscape contractor's license is taking a test where you go out and you identify plant species, whether they're dormant, non-dormant, evergreen, deciduous.
This is why you can walk around and talk about every scientific Latin name.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's just a rose bush. You're like,
Yep.
no, it's actually this.
Yeah, you don't learn them by your common names. You learn them by the Latin names, and spelling them is a thing. Good thing on the test is it's multiple choice most of the time, so you don't have to write them out.
That's good.
But when I took my class at Lenore Community College, we had to spell them out. It had to be spelled right.
No,
So
thank you.
Shout out to Miss Amy Thomas for teaching me how to spell in Latin. But to get back into the landscape contractor's license, want to dive into more of the weeds that are more in depth of what we do and where people actually start breaking the law. So where it says constructs, installs, or maintains landscape drainage systems and cisterns, provided the landscape contractor makes no connections to pipes or apparatuses installed upon the premises or into a building, because then you would be need to be a licensed plumber. So you can do drainage all you want, but you cannot tie into any of the drainage systems from the building or from the house. That therefore you becoming a plumber, because you're doing away with gray water instead of just straight up water out of the lawn. So that's one thing there. The other one is designs, installs, or maintains low voltage lighting systems, provided the work does not exceed the scope of exceptions set forth in General Statute 87, and low voltage lighting systems do not exceed 50 volts. So we can work up to 50 volts. So low voltage systems, which is all of your night lighting, a lot of that stuff's 12 volt. Occasionally you get some 24 volt. It's not very common anymore, but 12 volt systems, low voltage around your house, your up lightings, your down lights, your lights in your ponds, water features, lights in your hardscapes, your little dot lights that are now becoming popular in your pavers.
In the paver.
Your ledge lights, all that stuff is covered under your landscape contractor's license, not under an electrical license. When you bump above 50, above 50 volts, that's when it's like, all right, now you need to be a licensed electrician. The other thing there is, like, when you're hooking up your transformers, it has to have a class 2 or class 3 cord and plug, connected to that transformer. If it doesn't have a cord that you can plug into a 110 outlet and it's going to be hardwired, well, during that one connection, that's where you're going to need a licensed electrician to make that, if you're going to hardwire the transformer in.
Yep.
But if it's just a plug and play, that's the general term, a plug and play system where you plug it into an outlet, then you're good. You don't need the electrical license, and your landscape contractor's license will cover all of that low voltage. There's also a ton of continuing ed when you go for your landscape contractor's license that goes over low voltage lighting as well. How to make a proper connection, what type of wire nuts are rated and suited for low voltage versus irrigation, because believe it or not, there's different wire nuts and ratings and all that stuff for voltage, for both, as well as UV protection and stuff like that. So it's important that you know that as well.
Lighting's huge. When people talk about like landscape contractor, they're probably thinking plants, lawn. They're not thinking lighting, but lighting is huge. And the Teco event that we went to, it was everywhere. Like, they were all about the lights in the pavers, lights under the walls, lights everywhere. And that was pretty cool to see, because I really do think it adds a nice element to what it is we're making out there. Like, it really brings the lawn to life. And then at the sun goes down, it's like your life stays alive. So that was pretty cool to see. And the ones in the pavers, it still trips me out that people are walking around the lights and everything. But when they were all lit up, it was pretty cool to see that laid out too. And so there's a safety aspect where you can see the steps, you can see what's going on. There's also the aesthetic where you can set the tone to like that soft yellow or that blue-white, where it's like it's like a star on the ground almost. So it's awesome to see the licensed landscape contractors going out and flexing this part of that license and being able to go out and do that, because it really is creating these awesome, like almost futuristic landscapes for people. And it's just like, I dig it. I love where the industry is going on that front.
Yeah, I mean, well, this allows the landscaper to come into the property and do kind of like the one-stop shop. You're coming there, you're able to build the patios and all that stuff. You're also able to sell the lighting that enhances the beauty of the home, enhances the beauty of the landscape, and provides extended use of the landscape, because it's not just to daytime anymore. It's also to nighttime. And the advantage to doing this versus hiring an electrician is, well, the landscaper, if he's already doing the low voltage and he's doing the design and the install, then along the whole aspect of it, he can do all his wiring. He can already know, like, well, this plant's going to get X amount maturity, so we want to put this light this far away so that we know at maturity it doesn't have to be moved again, and all this stuff. So that's why it really ties in all together as one, because then you're able to do the plan so that customer gets the maximum, comfortability of their landscape, the maximum usage of the landscape, and just really able to amplify the landscape so that you can make it like Disney World out there.
Yeah, and it doesn't just look that way when you leave. Yeah. It gets better with time, because, like you said, they can plan ahead for what's to come, because the landscaper can see, here's where the plants are growing.
Yep.
Here's where everything is going to be working out. And again, to people being able to use it at night, like we're building the place where people make memories. And that's one of the things I stress to the guys is like, we don't just cut lawns. Like this is where kids play. This is where kids grow up. This is where couples go out and they get to sit and watch the stars. Like there's a lot more to this than that. Yep. And like, I'm a visionary. Like I'm an idealist. I'm a romantic, whatever. But like, I think about all these things because when we're out there, we're working with people's properties. And like, that's where my kids are growing up. That's where Jackie and I are going out. Like, so to go out and be able to see something beautiful or to see it all laid out exactly how you want it, like our homes, like those are our domains where we get to like chill and be our best selves, to be able to create an environment where they can be at peace and we can walk away knowing like, this is going to be a beautiful spot for you. Morning, evening, night. That is an awesome part of this job too, that the satisfaction here is like, we can do all of it. It's not like, man, I really hope the electrician gets this lighting right. It's like, no, we can do that.
Yep.
We can make sure that's perfect.
Yeah. The next category of this, which also emphasizes into the lighting and the walls and the patios and everything else that we do, in the planning side, engages in the construction of garden pools, not swimming pools, garden pools, retaining walls, walks and patios, and landscape features. Now, this is the one section where they struck something out. It used to say, or other decorative and landscape features. They struck out the words or other decorative. And I think they did that because there was a lot of things where like you would build a small raised deck around the koi pond, but the raised deck materials would cost so much that you would extend above $30,000, or you would extend above now $40,000 as a general contractor, and that started getting into the structural side of things. But landscapers were doing it. I know we did it. I mean, we looked at it as like, well, this is decorative and is enhancing the landscape, but is becoming structural. It might have this big pergola built above it, and it's like, all right, now we're starting to get into some structural stuff that's not retaining walls, walks, or patios, or garden pools. It's a landscape feature, but at what point does it become a building? What point does it become a structural platform? And so that's where I think they have struck that out. And one area where we would always hit like a little gray area of like, is this legal or is it not? Mm-hmm. And so that's one of those things I'm glad we're now a licensed general contractor. Cause
it makes you think of The Godfather when he's always talking about we're going to go legit. He's like, we're going to bring in business. It's going to be legit. We're not going to be criminals anymore. Like, we're legit now. We did it.
Yep. Now, to recap on this, I'm going to read you another statement that pretty much is the golden statement. This is what I base all landscaping licensing requirements on. It says any landscaping work where the price of all contracts for labor, material, and other items for a given job site during any consecutive 12-month period is less than $30,000, a local government unit shall not enact a local ordinance or regulation requiring licensure for landscaping work performed pursuant to this subdivision. Now, this is an exemption. So, in other words, what that's saying is as long as you're under $30,000 in a 12-month period, then you're not required to have this license. If that work does not exceed $30,000 on that property for that customer in 12 months, then you're not required to have it. Now, some examples of this would be customer hires you do an $18,000 job, you're not required to have it. Customer hires you again in the same 12 month to do another project and it costs $15,000. Well, guess what? You're over $30,000 threshold in a 12-month period. Now you need that license. Mm-hmm. The other area where this catches people is on the lawn maintenance side and lawn care side. And we can go back to where it talks about lawn care. And here an exemption, it says, you're exempt if you're lawn mowing, turf edging, and debris removal services. It doesn't say pine strawing or trimming bushes or anything like that. So if you put out one bale of pine straw, 1 yard of mulch, or you trim one bush, you're no longer just a lawn mowing, turf edging, and debris removal service. You're a landscape service. Yep. So if you do that on the property and it's under $30,000 in a 12-month period, then you're fine. So if you're just doing residential lawns, then yeah, you won't break that threshold doing that trimming for Mrs. Jones who's 85 years old and just doesn't want to maintain her lawn. You're fine. Keep doing what you're doing. But when you start trying to go towards municipalities or for us, it's we see it a lot with like HOAs. You're entering a contract with an HOA because you started off as a residential lawnmower, and now you started getting into like, oh, well, the HOA has asked me if I'd bid. Well, guess what? When you bid to that contract of maintaining the HOA, and it meets $40,000 or just above $30,000.
Yep. You got to have a license.
And they've got trim bushes in the contract. They've got installed pine straw.
Yep.
It's in the contract that it has to be done. So that means that you are now signing that contract, acting as a landscape contractor, which is illegal. Schools, they may have mowing, weeding, edging, and blowing and all that stuff. They want done 12 months out of the year, but they also have bushes that need to be trimmed. You trim one bush, you broke the law.
Or spraying.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so you spray something.
Which then touches you all the way back to your pesticide license. That's why I went from pesticide to landscape because, obviously landscape construction is one thing, your hardscape crews, your install crews, but it touches on the lawn maintenance side, which then ties into the pesticide license.
Yep.
So if you're out there doing your lawn mowing, your turf edging, and your debris removal, and it's under $30,000, well, yeah, you're good. You don't need the landscape license. But now you want to spray Roundup.
Yep.
Well, now you need your pesticide license.
Yep.
And then they call you to trim bushes at the HOA.
Now you need a contractor's license.
Contract for 12 years. Well, now you need your landscape contractor's license. So just go ahead and get them. You don't have to worry about it. One other exemption I've got highlighted is turf management or lawn care services only. So this is including fertilization, aeration, weed control, or other turf management or lawn care practices other than mowing or edging. So the way this is written is it's targeting specifically as a pesticide applicator. Mm-hmm. If you're just doing that, then you don't need to be a licensed landscape contractor.
Still under 30K.
Well, no, because that's exempt. So
they can go over the 30K as long as they're only doing spraying and aeration.
Yeah, the way that this is written. No, $30,000. No, once you hit 30,000, you'd still have to.
Even for them.
Yeah, even for them.
Wow.
Because once you bumped over 30, you would be classified as a landscape contractor.
Yep.
But you also within that have to be a licensed pesticide applicator.
Yep.
So you're gonna have to be licensed.
Yeah, all I did was plug your lawn. I didn't do anything else.
Yep.
Thanks, man.
So pesticide license, you need that. If you're mowing basically if you're getting into the lawn care business and you're wanting to make this a career and you're wanting to do this long term, go ahead and pursue getting your North Carolina landscape contractor's license and getting your pesticide applicator license. It's not bad. It's not a bad thing to have. I mean, the worst thing it's going to do is going to increase your business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like, man, our revenue went up.
Worst thing it's going to do. There's nothing negative going to come from that.
Well, when I look at it too, there's also the sense of you talking about being the one-stop shop. You don't want to be the one who's like, well, I can do this and this, but I'm sorry, I can't do that. They're like, we want everything.
Yep.
We don't want to have to outsource this to everything. So you want to be the place where you can do all the things, and that's why going into it, getting educated in it, getting licenses in it, it's important that you're looking at the bigger picture here. It's not like, oh, I've got to go to this class. It's like, that's so short term. If this is going to be your career, look at the long term. Eventually, you're either going to run into the wall and something's going to happen to where they're going to say, do you have your license? Or you're going to keep losing jobs because you can't do what it is they're asking you to do.
Yep.
And so you can avoid both those things by going and getting the license, by going and being professional within this industry.
That's right. One more exemption that they have in here is for general contractors. If you're a general contractor,
yes,
I don't need that anymore. However, I'm in the landscaping industry, in the green industry. Although I have my general contractor's license now, I will always hold that license and continue to get my continuing education in it. Just because one license trumps it, I'm not going to get rid of it. I worked hard for it. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to continue paying my dues. I'm going to continue going to get my continuing education because that continuing education is geared specifically for the green industry. And I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose the connections I've made at these events. And so I don't want to just be like, well, I've got the general contractor's license. It says I'm exempt. I don't need this. Well, no, I'm in the green industry. I still want that license and I'm going to hold it and I'm going to continue to advocate for it because I think it's an important thing. So I'm still going to have it even though I don't need it.
Well, I think that's what makes you a good dude. I was like, there's a lot of people that are always trying to like scam or find like the workarounds to get through things or make it not work. And you pay the dues and respect. And there's something to be said about honor. And so continue to honor the thing that got you here. It's like the people who make it and they like forget about where they came from. It's like you remember where you came from. And so there's something cool about that I dig.
Well, while you said that, I'm going to read you one little in the general contractors where it says farmers are exempt. And there was a few times we used that law to get around some things.
I'm gonna put that on my classification if I don't like the government. Don't tell me what I can't do.
Yeah, that was one of those. Now, staying on the green industry side, the next license that we haven't covered that we're licensed to do is irrigation contracting.
Do you know that this is I enjoy working on irrigation a lot, like because it's something I get. I enjoy the flow, like it's what I did in the Navy. So like I think my brain has always fit really well with it. It's also the one I hate the most because when you leave, you don't see anything that you did.
100%.
You can spend all your money, you can do all this hours of work. They look outside, like, what'd you do? I buried it.
Yeah,
You can't see what I did.
yep. But I mean, that's also the beauty of it.
Yeah.
The fact that you did it so flawlessly, or you installed it perfectly, and it's like,
It's not until that sprinkler head pops up, you're like, see?
yeah. And then there's also the satisfaction of, it doesn't happen often, but when you get all your heads set when you first leave, I'm pretty anal. When I first started, I'll set all my heads to the left, so like fire them up to begin with. It's like, oh yeah, they're all.
We had that going out here at the venue. That was beautiful.
Yep, but then it doesn't last 1 year. One
You get the shot that day.
Yeah, one head's a little faster than the other, so I mean, it doesn't take long to get off. But it is pretty cool and satisfying when you first do that, especially when you sprays. It's like MP rotors that are spraying out. They all pop up down the sidewalk, and they're all rotating real nice and pretty. And you get a little aerial photo with the drone, and they're just sitting there.
I've seen it with golf courses.
Yeah,
Dude, there's got to be like some ASMR or something like that to it.
Yep.
Or like golf course sprinklers going. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, especially when you get the sun shining, you get like
Through the trees.
the little rainbow going through the spray. I know we did that. We did a project on 10th Street in Greenville, and I had sent you a photo from my phone. It was like right beside a retaining wall. The sun was coming through. It was like a perfect little rainbow, like 2 foot from me. No pot of gold though, unfortunately. But yeah, that was cool. So to dive into irrigation, if you're going to do anything in the irrigation field, and I'm gonna read a couple things here as well to make sure that I get it accurate here. I think this is actually in the exemptions. So pretty much if you are providing irrigation or engage in the practice of irrigation construction or irrigation contracting using the designation irrigation contractor, or advertise using any title or description that implies licensure as an irrigation contractor, unless the person is licensed, is a crime.
I like how they put that in there.
Well, it doesn't say it's a crime. I added that part. Okay. But it is a crime because you're breaking the law. Mm-hmm. Now, some of the exemptions to this, and this is where like it kind of dives into what requires you to have the license, is one, it says any irrigation construction or irrigation contracting work where the price of all contracts for labor, material, and other items for a given job site is less than $2,500. Now, similar to the landscape contractor's license, where it was $30,000. If you were under $30,000 in 12 months, you didn't need it. This one's very similar. It doesn't say a time period within here, which means that for that job
per project.
So if you do the project and the project exceeds $2,500 for all material and labor, then you're going to be a licensed irrigation contractor. So if you're mowing the lawn and someone wants one sprinkler head replaced, and you replace that sprinkler head, sprinkler head's around $25 or something like that, depending on the make and model, or if it's a pop-up, rotor. Anyway, we can go all into details on cost and different styles. But if you go to Lowe's, you pick up a Hunter PGP or a PGJ or something like that, and you go out and you replace that head in that customer's lawn,
you're fine.
You're not going to exceed $2,500. Now, if you start damaging all the pipes, say they had someone come in and do some trenching for a drain line, or you as the landscaper came into the lawn and you were putting in all drainage around the house, but there was a pre-existing irrigation system, and you destroyed the wiring, you destroyed the main lines, the laterals, the heads came up, you had to basically reinstall the system. More than likely, that's going to bump $2,500.
Requiring a licensure.
Yeah, therefore triggering you to need an irrigation license. Yeah, we get it. You were already there doing the drainage work, so you were like, man, let's put this back together because it's part of, like, you just ruined it for this customer. Mm-hmm. I get it. You want to put it back together. However, the law would require you to be a licensed irrigation contractor. Similar to you, cutting across the lawn with a trencher and you hitting some power wires. Well, you can't just throw the power wires back together. You need a licensed electrician to do that. Similar to you running across, the main water line or the sewer line. You can't just throw that back together. you need a licensed plumber to do that as well. Does it happen? 100% it happens every day. Does that mean it's right? No, it doesn't.
No.
So, yeah, that $2,500 amount for irrigation is kind of where it throws you in to needing that license. So pretty much any new install that's going to be more than like 2 heads with a clock, a backflow preventer. You throw a backflow.
Some of those clocks.
Yeah, I mean, you throw a backflow preventer in there, in the box, and and all that stuff, and Schedule 80, which you're going to need a permit. And in some counties and stuff like that, the backflow preventers are actually required to be installed by a licensed plumber. And so sometimes you're only allowed to tap in from the backflow preventer
On.
Yeah, not install the backflow preventer. So that's also another requirement that is sometimes county driven. So each county might be a little different. Each county has their own regulations as to how high the backflow preventer has to be installed. The manufacturers have all that. So, I mean, we can go on and on and on about local zoning and regulations, but I think the main takeaway here is if you're installing irrigation and it's going to be more than $2,500, you need a license. The only exemption to this that I think a lawn care company or a hardscape company or landscape company could get away with is you just seeded a lawn or you just sodded a lawn and you're setting up temporary irrigation. So, you've come out to their meter and a licensed plumber has given you a tap to tie into, and then you install all the tubing laying across the ground, all the sprinklers and stuff like that. If all of that still exceeded $2,500, but it's temporary and not meant to be permanent, then yeah, you're exempt from that based off the way this law is read. Because it says any person performing irrigation construction or irrigation contracting work for temporary irrigation to establish vegetative cover for erosion control. So not that you're trying to go out there and establish this temporary system for a system. I mean, for a customer that's got grass, they just want it to look better. That would be still needing irrigation. But if it's for the simple purpose of erosion control, that is the exemption. So if you're sodding the hillside or seeding the hillside like we just got finished with, where we backfill behind a bulkhead with a hefty slope, that irrigation for that temporary just for erosion control, then yeah, you wouldn't need a license for that either, even if it exceeded $2,500.
Now, for irrigation, with pesticide, you can do certain things with certain parts. There's different tests. And so you can be licensed in certain areas. With irrigation, is there certain types of irrigation tests, or is one irrigation license cover everything?
Yeah, it's one irrigation license covers it all. There are some exemptions for nurseries and farms and sod farms and stuff like that as well. I know sod farms are exempt for commercial sod production. Nurseries are exempt for the watering of their plants.
I was going to say the misters, but it's those overhead misting.
Yeah, they're exempt from it as well. And then another thing, general contractors are exempt as well.
That's fantastic.
So this is another license that technically I do not need. However, there are a ton of things I learned in these continuing education classes specifically pertaining to irrigation that I don't think I'll get in my continuing education for general contracting. Matter of fact, I know I won't. I read all the books and there wasn't a single thing in there about irrigation. So the fact that I can be a general contractor and install irrigation systems is baffling to me when this law states all the things that it does, and you have to take a test for that. But I'm exempt, and I didn't read a single book about irrigation.
That's actually pretty wild.
Yeah. So that pretty much covers irrigation, and $2,500 is the recap on that. So pesticide, if you're spraying anything for any compensation, doesn't matter if it's restricted use or non-restricted use. Pesticide, you need a license. North Carolina landscape contractor, pretty much $30,000. If it's under 30, you don't need it. If it's over 30 within a 12-month period, you do. That's pretty much the basis of that one. Irrigation is $2,500. If you don't exceed $2,500 on a project, then you don't need it for irrigation. Now we dive into the big boy.
I'm interested in this one. So this might be a ridiculous question. The green industry, everything we just spoke about. General contractors, what color industry? What are they? The construction industry?
Yeah, construction.
The builders industry?
Yeah, construction industry.
Okay. I was thinking about that earlier, and I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, it would be.
How do I ask this subtly? Well, let's just do it on a podcast publicly.
Yeah, no, it would be construction, trades industry of buildings. You're building buildings. Um, Now there's different classifications to general contractors. There's residential, there's highway, there's marine, there's building contractor. Um, I'm gonna specifically go over building contractor because that is the one that I got. Um, Still pumped about that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to
It's
say.
one of those ones you've asked me like, are you gonna talk about it? And I'm like, man, when I get my license number, I'll talk about it.
It's hanging in our office.
Yeah, and so it's
Super pumped about that.
It's been like 4 or 5 weeks now where you're like,
Dude,
are
because
you
it's,
gonna mention
it's
it?
an awesome achievement. Like, that's super cool. And like, that is not a common, like I said, that's not common. That is an awesome achievement. And I'm glad you're talking about it. Like, it's this weird secret. It's like just this awesome thing. Yeah, all right, what do you want for lunch?
Yeah. But anyways, to dive into this, dude, I'm gonna need some monster. I got something stuck in my throat.
I don't think it's helping. White little devils run around. The caffeine gremlins.
To dive into general contracting, building contractors specifically. So, one, general contractors alone, the law that requires you to have a general contractor's license, no matter the classification, is the current law in North Carolina defines general contractors as persons, firms, or corporations who bid upon, contract, or construct construction projects involving the construction of any building, highway, public utilities, grading, or any improvement or structure costing $40,000 or more. Now, if you're watching this, I'll raise my hand on the grading part because this is one of those things where landscape contractor, general contractor covers grading, landscape contractor covers fine grading. Where does this cross? And I still think there's a slight gray area there. I can't really get a straight answer from anyone as to what that means, but from my reading and the verbiage of the laws is like general contractor would be if you're clearing land and it's going to cost more than $40,000. Your landscape contractor's license probably won't cover that. You'll need to be a general contractor to be clearing and grading that land if it's more than $40,000, which in this case would be more than 30 because it's where you're licensing for landscape general contractor.
What about the companies that just run heavy equipment and clear land? Like, is there a license for? Is there a specific license there?
According to this and the way that this is written, then you would if your project is going to exceed $40,000, then you'll need to be a general contractor.
But if just clearing the land,
Then you'll need to be a general contractor because the project.
no grading.
Yep.
Wow.
Clearing the land. You can't clear the land without grading it.
Well, very rough grade.
It's grading.
Okay.
You're disturbing. You're disturbing that area. Now, another topic we'll talk about. If you clear more than an acre, you're going to have to get a permit anyways because you're disturbing more than an acre. You're going to need an erosion and sediment control plan. You're going to need to know if you're going to need silt fences. You're going to need to turn in sheet flow plans, to your department of natural resources so that they can find out if you're close to a blue line stream or with your CAMA setback. We're on the water, so there's setbacks off of the water as far as what you can clear and what not clear, what you can remove and what can't move, what you can put back, and all that good stuff too, revolving around the environment. But
When you run that paperwork, do they ask for your license?
No, they don't.
Okay. I feel like they should.
Yeah, they should, but I mean, it'd be one more thing that I don't think they're worried about if you're licensed. They're worried about their particular thing, and so it's like,
Yeah.
if their thing is environmental natural resources, protection of the water's edge, they don't.
Yeah, you operating without a license, not concerning them because that's not impacting the environment.
Because
what you're doing does.
They don't ask because like if the project's under $30,000, well then you wouldn't need a license. So why would they ask you? If the project's under $40,000, you don't need a general contractor's license. Why would they ask you? If it's a $10,000 project, but it's still disturbing that area, then it wouldn't matter to them. So you wouldn't need a license to do the project. You would just need approval from them.
Yeah, not disturb what they don't want you to disturb.
That's right.
Got
So that would kind of cover that. Now, to dive into building contractor and what it covers. It's kind of a lengthy statement, but what I'm gonna kind of sum this up a little bit. It says it includes parking decks.
This is cool for me too. Oh, you cut it out. I was gonna buy you some time. This is cool for me too because this is also like we've been working under your landscape contractor's license. That this is all foreign. Like
Yeah.
the projects we do heading forward, I'm like, all right, I'll notice what we're doing new.
Yep.
So like I'm wildly like interested in where we're gonna go with this.
Yeah. So, building contractor as classified under the statute, it's the classification covers all building construction and demolition activity, including commercial, industrial, institutional, and all residential building construction. That's a very wide section there.
Yeah.
So pretty much anything out there building wise, we can build. Other than some other limitations that we'll go into in a minute, as far as dollar amounts go, the license classification will allow you to do any building structure. Skyscrapers, Lowe's, Home Depots, Walmarts, small little commercial, convenience stores, wedding venues, residential homes, custom homes. You can build pretty much whatever. If it's a structure, you can build it. There's some limitations as far as dollar amounts based upon what limitation you have on your building contractor's license, whether it's limited. Let's see here. What's the technical term here? If it's limited license, an intermediate license, or an unlimited license. Limited license allows you to work up to $750,000. That's where we're at right now. We've got a limited license because it didn't require an accountant to go through all of our books, and it was just.
Is that per project or is that per year?
No, it's per project.
Okay.
It's a project up to $750,000.
Got it.
Now there are some stipulations in there as well, where I think if the project was to meet the building project was to meet 750, but say the landscaping project portion of that was going to exceed like 200,000, the 200,000 on the landscape portion isn't really part of it.
Nice.
And for us, it wouldn't matter anyways because I'm a licensed landscape contractor, so we could divvy that up a couple ways.
Yeah.
But that is some limitations there. And to dive into why we're not unlimited, an accountant didn't want to go through our books in the time frame I needed. Well, not that they didn't want to. They didn't have the time. I asked them right in the middle of tax season.
Yeah.
And they were like, we don't have time.
We need it by tomorrow.
So, yeah, and I needed it like in a week. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and get my license, and I will worry about getting my unlimited at a later date because I can always increase my limitations just by providing the paperwork to the board. So that's what we're going to do. And right now we're just working with a $750,000 budget, which will cover a lot of things we want. So hopefully we'll run into a problem and we need more. That would be awesome.
Excellent problem to have.
Now, to dive more into building contractor, and this is where you're just going to answer some of the questions that I think you're going to have. But it includes parking decks, all site work, grading and paving of parking lots, driveways, sidewalks, and gutters, like storm gutters, storm drainage, retaining or screen walls, and hardware and accessory structures, and indoor and outdoor recreational facilities, including natural and artificial surface, athletic fields, running tracks, bleachers, and seating. It also covers work done under the specialty classifications of concrete construction, insulation, interior construction, marine construction, masonry construction, roofing, metal erection, swimming pools, and asbestos and wind turbines.
Sick.
So
the possibilities are more unlimited.
Yeah, all of those subcategories I talked about, you can actually, if you just want to, for example, if you just want to do concrete construction above 40,000, then you can go get a license for just concrete construction and not have to worry about taking the building contractor's test. If you just want to do wind turbines, you can go get a license specifically for wind turbines. Or marine construction. If you just want to do piers, bulkheads, and retaining walls, sea walls, you can go get a license for just that.
Yep.
But the building contractor license covers all of those subcategories.
Yep.
So we really can do
awesome.
just about anything outdoors at this point, and indoors.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
And the landscape contractor license, I said garden pools, which would be like a garden pond or or like a living pond. Like we've built one before with
Like a koi pond?
Yeah, we built a koi pond that had a working bog. Well, we could build like aquascapes sells kits that are like living ponds that you can swim in. That would be like a garden pool because you're building it around landscaping and it's filtering through the rocks. You know, you can add all your biofalls and all that stuff to it, but it's covered under landscape license because it's considered like a garden pond.
That's cool.
You can swim in it, but it's a garden pond. We're talking specifically swimming pools.
Yep.
So to do swimming pools, you have to be a general contractor. And while we're talking about this is one of the reasons why we've kind of pursued this is because we love doing hardscape projects. So we love building pool decks. We love building awesome hardscape features. And a lot of hardscape features are around pools. And so
we've been working around a lot of pools. It's like time to do the pool.
Yeah, that's right. It's like, why are we doing the pretty work when we could do all the work? And so that's something that we were going to venture into at some point. We've talked to many pool manufacturers. We've actually kind of got set up as dealers. I've been a dealer for one for over a year now, and it's something that we've kind of been dragging our feet on releasing because we want to make sure we're doing it right. We know we're going to serve that customer right, but this license allows us to do that. A lot of people thought that you could just go and install a pool, and it's like, no, you either have to have that special license to cover it, or you have a building contractor or a residential contractor, and then it covers that as well.
Now, is there any specifications if it comes to like multifamily units versus just a house? Are there weird stipulations like that? Because I was thinking there were, like I said, a multifamily unit. That's a large home. It wasn't listed, and so like I'm wondering
that is residential.
All right.
Residential.
So when you say residential, I was thinking of like just regular, maybe a duplex.
Yeah, no, the only thing is in the code book, you know, you're going to have different, like whether an engineer is going to need to design it or have an approved plan, you know, which then is going to go into your local code and stuff like that. So like in your code book, there's going to be stipulations and laws as to what is required per structure, but this license covers all of that. And with that is saying, hey, I know where to find this in the code book so that I know what laws I'm not going to break.
Yep.
And if not, you're going to get checked. The inspector is going to be on it.
So since going through this, do you have any dream project you're hoping falls our way at some point? Be it like the first time we do like a full pool, or is there like a cool project like it'd be cool to do that now that you can do all these things?
Yeah. So I mean, for me, a thing that I've kind of had in the back of my head, and I've spoken with you about it in the past, that I thought would be super cool, is as a landscape contractor or a landscape company, and now a building contractor where we've built structures before, as I hinted about earlier. I've read through the weeds and read the law and dipped and dodged and went through the words and through the letters and through the circles of the A and any way you could around getting around some things. You know, we've built a wedding venue on a farm, and we used the law to our advantage and the verbiage that was in it so that we could get around that, and our landscaping company built that. We're sitting in this man cave that my landscaping guys built.
This is actually my most, this is my, of all we've ever done, this is the one that stands out the most.
Yeah.
I love that my hands are a part of this. This is my most proud project.
Yeah,
and like every time we come in here, I'm always like, I was doing it during this conversation, just looking around. Like I remember when this was not here. Yeah. One of my first projects was the concrete had just been poured.
Yep.
That's when I started.
Yeah, I think we poured the concrete, and then like 2 days later, you started your first day, and we sat that back wall up, and we literally framed up the whole wall. I think over that day and a course. I mean, all the downstairs because it's upstairs. We framed up the whole downstairs, you know, in the next 2 days or so, and that was your first project. And you were like, man, that was landscaping.
Yeah, I didn't mow a single lawn. I built a house.
But with that, you know, one of my dream projects that I want to do is I'd love to get about 80 acres and just build a full development of homes, create the HOA, create the clubhouse, you know, create the community pool, make the nice pretty water feature, you know, at the front, to where the landscape company, Landscaping Unlimited, fully encompassed, start to finish site work, does the buildings, installs the pool, you know, takes care of all the turf care. And builds in as part of the HOA so that we know the place is always going to look tip-top shape until all of the lots are sold. Once all of the lots are sold, then I think I would make it where there could be a vote and we would step down as, acting party of the HOA, and we would allow the HOA to say, hey, we could hire someone else outside of Landscape Unlimited at this point if you want to. I don't think that would be the case because I would take it, it would be my pride and joy.
Yep.
So I don't think
It'd be a gem.
Yeah, I would
always on
I
site.
would pretty much almost break even on that project, I think. But I mean, that would be my goal is to do all that, build all the infrastructure, design it all, and just have this HOA, being built that Landscape Unlimited did start to finish, top to bottom. All the homes, build them as specs and sell them out, and I think that would be cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's the second one. Looking at this, I mean, just having the license for this, it also goes to promoting and just staying true to the message of just investing in the industry that you're looking to see grow.
Yeah.
You got the license, so it's cool that you can do all this, and it's freaking awesome that there are no limits. Like there are the limits of having somebody audit you.
Yeah.
The limit is having the patience to just have somebody go through that.
Yeah.
But outside of that, it's like there's nothing that's holding it back. And so like people thought we were doing well before, and like doing all possibilities are unlimited. You guys can do the hardscape, the landscape, everything in between. And so now we're doing more.
Yeah.
And it's like from the people will look, well, why? And it's such a weird foreign question because it's like, why wouldn't you? Like, why not?
That's right.
And that's what I love about this is like, we can do it all. So let's do it all. Like, what are you waiting for? And it's for anybody listening. I made the joke about The Godfather, where he's like trying to go legit. But it's like if you're in that category and you're like, man, I run my own business. I'm a greenscape industry professional, or green industry professional.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why not get the license? I'm so proud of my pesticide license. You get your landscape contractor's license, your irrigation license. If you get those things, you're supporting the industry, but you're also like showing yourself like I'm legit in this. And for people that knock landscaping or hardscaping, like a part of that is your lack of belief in self too, of like, well, I don't need to go and do these things because I can just wing it and figure it out. And it's like that mindset's going to hold you back. And so I think like just investing in yourself, investing in the industry, getting the certifications or the licensing or the education or the actual licenses to do all of the things you want to do, like that's going to have you legitimately running a profession, and it's going to make this more legitimate trade, which just supports the argument that this is a trade in the same sense of the electrical engineers. I mean, the electricians out there, the plumbers out there, like landscaping is a trade. It is in the blue collar industry, the green industry. It is hardworking people where all of this is honest. This was built with honest work. The property out here, you guys can't see it, but if you listen to the podcast, when you go by the venue, like that's honest work. You can't fake that. You have to be knowledgeable about it. You've got to go through and you got to put in the work into it. And if you can't, if you value that, well, then go the full way and work on the back end of things. Get the licenses. Go to the schools. The coolest people are those who we have been to at these trade shows, at these schools, at everything we've been to so far. Everybody is super chill because we all know how hard the job is.
Yeah.
So we don't make our lives hard. I meet you and you're like, hey, I'm a hardscaper. I know a lot about you already because you can't fake your way through this. You work with your hands. You're smart. You've got to be creative. You can deal with stress. You can balance people. There's a lot to you. And you can operate equipment, you can operate machinery, you can schedule things, you're on task, you know how to plan ahead. There's so much that goes into somebody just saying they're a landscaper, because if you've made it far enough in the industry to where you're going to show up to these things, then obviously you're doing all right, and people don't accidentally do all right in this industry.
Yep.
You have to it's intentional effort, it's education, it's trying. And I love to see that. I love to see that you're still going with this, because you could have stopped at landscape contractor.
Yeah.
You didn't. You went forward with general contractor, and it's that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's motivating.
I think to recap on this episode, and one, it's the Green Industry Podcast, it's the Landscaping Podcast. We're talking about the green industry, and we're throwing in a building contractor. So it's like, Shay, why did you pursue it? While working the landscaping industry, and a part of it is, and I'll use an example of this past Friday. So a few days ago, I had a meeting with a client, where I met with him a year ago about a project, and we tried to get some things lined up, and just didn't really pan out right then. But I met with him again, and he was telling me about he's got a pool already, but he wants to do an extensive amount of hardscaping, redoing the driveway, redoing it inside his garage, redoing his irrigation, talking about resurfacing around his pool, and then he's talking about building this sauna, and it's like, all right, the sauna. Well, the sauna would have been a point where it's like, man, I couldn't build that. because he's talking about adding on to the backside of his garage. And could we do it as landscapers, like with our knowledge? Yeah, 100%. Legally, no. Well, now we can legally. So we're already there. We're doing the whole project. So what better way to tie all the hardscapes in than to already be there doing and building the sauna and doing all the plumbing and all that good stuff and electricity, having all that trenched out and having our licensed electrician show up, and hook all that up while we're doing the hardscape. So the project is constantly evolving with one company knowing all the ins and outs. And that's where that's going to come in, and where the reasoning behind us as a landscape company getting it is so that we can hit those little niche markets while we're building those backyard oases, the swimming pools, because that's covered under here. But it's the saunas and everything else that you can build in a backyard to enhance your landscaping that may not be covered in a landscape license. Your extensive pergolas, or maybe you've got these extensive fire pits with, you want a smokestack out the top. You want this extravagant pizza oven, but you want it closed in, and you want this roof over top of it with all this ventilation systems. And it's like, could we do that? Could we build all the hardscape sides of that? Yes. So when we get to the structure side of that, the pergolas and stuff like that, the enclosed outdoor kitchens, where it's like you start getting into this area where it's like, all right, general contractors are needed for that, but landscapers can do that because you're out there building the backyard oasis. So those are those little niche markets that we just don't want to miss, and we want to make sure that while we're there, we can get all of it, and we can put our name and our stamp of approval on it at the end and look back at it and go, I did that, which is the most satisfying thing to me.
No, absolutely. I think it's interesting when you look at it. Did you go outside the green industry to be able to do more in the green industry? Yes.
Yeah.
You went into the construction industry to be able to come back to the green industry. So if anything, you went outside to do more to bring it back to what it is that you wanted to do in the first place, which was everything. Yep. Which is not a bad goal to have.
Yeah, but I mean, we didn't get this to go build custom homes.
And if people were to say, well, why? We didn't make the rules. This is what has to be done for you to do all of that.
That's right.
There's no general landscaper contractor, like, I don't know how to say that, but you know what I mean?
We knew what you were saying.
Yeah, the top of the landscape. Yeah. If there was that, then you'd have gotten that. This is what you had to do to fulfill the dream. And the dream was being able to do it all and give the service to the clients, everything that they're asking. Like this individual you're talking about, they had a lot that they wanted. They want that service from Landscaping Unlimited. You have shown through your work, you're the person they want to go with. And so now to be able to bring all that back to them, you had to go and get these extra, like I said, another line added to your email signature. Yep. You had to go do the work, do the studying, find time between coaching baseball, running landscaping, hardscaping, land clearing, all the other things, all things outdoors, and study all these books and go take the test. You had to do all that, but now you can go to him and you can say, yes, sir, I can do all that.
Yep.
I think that's what this is all about.
Yeah, you said earlier, like, you don't want to be that guy who's like, well, I can mow your lawn and do all this, but I can't do that part. Yeah. And it's like we had found ourselves at a point where it was like, man, we could do all this and we know how to do all this, but the law doesn't let us do that one part. Well, now we've taken that out of the equation, not because we wanted to be building contractors, but because we wanted to be the premier landscape contractor, in Eastern North Carolina. I've set my goals as being the largest landscape company east of Raleigh, from Wilmington to Elizabeth City. And so that's kind of like the market I want to really cover. And this is one of those stepping stones for us to get there, is to be able to cover all the little things that people ask, instead of saying, well, we can't do that part. It's like, well, we can do all those parts. You may have to wait a little while to get on the list. We may have to, vet some employees to build our systems up in place, because we don't want to expand and, crap out on service.
Yep.
But that's all part of the goal, and it's to bring it back to the green industry, not necessarily, to the construction industry, which we're going to venture into. But it's not to highlight that. It's to bring it back and really enhance the green industry and how much knowledge and skill, there is in this industry, and just how vast it really is.
I think it's a testament to the work as well. I was thinking about photography, and so it started out with baseball, and to bring that, well, can you do football? I gotta go try. I'm gonna go, so I taught myself football. Now I can do football. And then people liked my style of photography, and so I just had to keep learning all these different things because I wanted to bring my style. I enjoy it, but now I can bring it to all these other places. Were certifications needed? No. Did I go out and learn all these things? Yes. And so for you, they like your style of what you do. You know, it's not a cookie cut. I would say landscaping is just like photography. No, somebody who wants a hardscape around a pool and they go with this hardscape guy, he's going to do it different than you did.
Yeah, 100%.
You guys are all artists. So every hardscape, every landscaper, it's their touch.
Yep.
And so the fact that people are asking for the more things, it shows like people like the style that you're doing. Like there's a brick house style to what it is you're doing.
Yep.
And so I think people want to see that in all their other things. In the same way, people are like, I like your style of baseball. I want you to do it for softball or football or whatever other sport. And it's like, cool. Like I dig that. But I'm going to keep pushing myself to be better at this because you want a service and I want to provide the absolute best service I can. And for you here, like you're going to be challenged because now some of these projects are doing like an enclosed fire pit or oven, pizza oven, an enclosed pizza oven. That's new. So it's like, cool, like what does that look like? And how can I do my best at that? And we're going to be learning each of those projects as we go forward, getting the right teammates, on board. There's a lot to it. And it's cool because I think that in the same way I'm excited when I have new projects because they're new challenges and they're like, all right, Zach, show that you got it. Yeah. You're going to be like, hey, all right, I got to go build this thing. Let's show that I got it.
Yep, that's right.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where this takes us. I'm excited to build the systems to get it where it needs to go. We've got the foundation, the licensing, and the legal side. Now let's build the systems and let's move things forward and get the company, working off those systems so that you can't fail. Because a working system is a profitable system, and that's where we're going to get. Anyways, to kind of conclude this and just recap real quick, because it was a lot of material we covered here. We talked about four licensing. We talked about pesticide. We talked about landscape contractors. We talked about irrigation, and we talked about general contractors. To recap on pesticide, if you're spraying any kind of pesticide, whether it's restricted or non-restricted, for compensation, meaning you're out there spraying weeds for grandma, and she's giving you $25 to cut her lawn as an allowance, you need a pesticide applicator's license. If you are a landscape contractor, or you're acting as a landscape contractor doing jobs that cost more than $30,000 in a 12-month period, then you're going to need to be a licensed landscape contractor. This doesn't mean the guy mowing the lawn and that's all he does. But if you trim one bush, you put out one bale of pine straw, and your work on that project or in that HOA exceeds $30,000, you need a license as a landscape contractor. Irrigation contracting, like I said, that cap is around $2,500. So if you're doing irrigation work and it's going to exceed $2,500, then you're going to need to be a licensed irrigation contractor. General contractor, so pretty much anything building structure-wise that will exceed $40,000, labor and materials on that project, then you're going to need to be a licensed general contractor. That's pretty much a recap. If you want all the more details, re-listen to it. And I would encourage you to look up all the licensing and the statutes and all the laws and regulations, because there's a lot of information I didn't cover, and it's all good, useful information. So don't sleep on these licenses. Certainly research them. And if you find yourself you're in the gray area, well, you're probably not in the gray area. You're probably doing it illegal. And so go get that license and keep on.